Hey everyone, Stacks here. Welcome to the channel. Today I'm checking out X-Men #1 by Jonathan Hickman. Art this time by Leinil Francis Yu and colors by Sunny Go. And of course, on the heels of the success of House of X and Powers of 10, the hype for this, the excitement for this book is through the roof right now. And I'm telling you, this book doesn't do anything but to continue to build on that. So the book starts with a Cyclops flashback moment. He's sitting there and somebody tells him, open your eyes. And he replies, I can't, I won't, I'm scared what'll happen. He's saying he's afraid he'll hurt someone. But this individual keeps coaxing him, saying, look, you can do it. You don't have to go through life blind because you are not like them. And he does open his eyes, and basically it's him receiving those ruby quartz glasses from Professor X. And he responds, I can see, and Charles just replies, better than most, my boy. And oh, the things I will show you. And with that, we jump to now, where a group of X-Men are storming the last Orcas stronghold on Earth. And the first X-Men we see is Storm, and she's telling everybody, look, be careful. These people are desperate. They're going to be doing suicide bombers and trying to give themselves for the greater good, because that's what conquered people, that's what defeated people do. And as she's saying this, her eyes get big, and she has to duck out of the way, because apparently she's allowed one of these robots to sneak behind her, and Cyclops just saved the day by blasting him. And Cyclops continues just being a complete boss in this series and just replies, I'm always careful, Storm, it's part of my charm. And Scott actually kind of slows down and says, look, are you okay? I'm surprised you let a giant robot sneak up behind you. And she just says she's tired, but she doesn't know what she's tired of. She tries to blame it on being tired of fighting these death machines or the people that are making them, and just kind of shrugging it off, and they continue on. And like I mentioned in my preview video, it's really cool seeing these two work together. You see Cyclops and Storm, the leader of the X-Men, and then when he left, Storm, the one who took over, and they just work together so well. It's really cool to see them together. But anyways, as they continue to fight, it's Storm that points out, like, look, I've noticed they're falling back instead of scattering. They're either well trained or they're defending something. And that's when Cyclops calls in the big guns. He hops on the mic, says, we've located the main base, or the main lab, sir. Do you have a lock on our location? He gets a response, yes. We're ready when you are. And the doors of this place, the wall just rips open, and all the Orcas soldiers can do is look up and say, oh no. Because as they look out their new sunroof, all they can see is Magneto and Polaris. And Magneto looks over and says, Polaris, I know that I can be, at times, overly demanding, but am I asking too much of a flawed world if I want to no rubble and certainly no rabble beneath my feet when they touch the ground? And her reply, of course not, Father, allow me. And she absolutely just rips open the floor, is pulling wires out of it, and just takes out this whole company-sized element just standing down there waiting for him. From there, Magneto strolls up on Cyclops, who is trying to blast his way through the door. But we find out that not only is it shielded, which isn't a problem for Cyclops, the problem is it's made out of vibranium. Well, that's not a problem for Magneto, and he just rips it open. But before he does, it's revealed that inside this Dr. Mars, he's verifying that there's data redundancy between this location, the hub, and the Forge. Well, he's informed that currently it's only at 80%. So they're basically saying, look, we can't get everything downloaded back to the Forge before Magneto gets here. Well, in an effort to buy more time so this data replication can be completed, they inject themselves. This doctor basically says, look, it's better to make the ultimate sacrifice than to surrender 1 inch. Because they're like, hey, why don't we're going to have to destroy the data cores. He's like, nope, we're going to make this last stand, jams this needle into his arm, and says, these monsters can have my science when they pry it from my cold, dead hands. So once Magneto finally does have the door open, he's greeted by a bunch of gorillas coming rushing at him. But the only issue, these aren't regular gorillas. They're gorillas with PhDs that were working in this lab. But Magneto doesn't even bat an eye. He says, go, I'll take care of this. Find them. So while Magneto's doing the dirty work, Cyclops, Polaris, and Storm walk up on a bunch of stasis tubes. So as Polaris and Cyclops free all these individuals from the stasis chambers, they open one, and there's something different about it. It actually seems to be a mutant. Well, in a self-defense reaction, this apparently Mutant reaches up and says, "I'm not here, you don't see me." Well, it gets really weird because Storm's just like, "What are you talking about? I'm looking right at you." And Polaris scans her and says, "Look, it's human, but the tachyon bleed suggests massive atemporal development, so technically this is a post-human." Now in that moment, this girl, she's kneeling down and says, "I'm so weak." And Storm just kneels down with her and says, "You're from the vault, aren't you?" And she replies, "I emerged before I was fully cooked, a child born out of time. But I had to, don't you see? There are wild gods loose in the world." And right at that time, Magneto walks up with another great line, just saying, "The only gods on this planet stand here before you, child." And this girl instantly have to go, and she teleports out. And in this moment, Magneto immediately wants to pursue, but he's overruled by Cyclops, the field general. He tells him, "No, that's not our priority. If the council wants to make it one, they can deal with that later. But for now, we have more important things to do." And you look back and you see all these individuals that they're going to have to take back through to Krakoa. And I thought that part was very interesting because you have Magneto, a council member. He's Magneto, but he stops and he respects Cyclops' position as the battlefield commander. So it does show that the Krakoan government in some form is working. From there, we jump back to Krakoa, where they're bringing everybody through, and Dr. Reyes is checking them out, making sure they're medically fit and getting them, mental help where needed. Just basically treating these individuals and getting them the medical care they need. And Storm decides, hey, you know what? I'm going to stay back with these two because the level of power they're giving off, I just think it would be better. And Cyclops butts it again and says, "You sure like sticking around? We've been going non-stop for the last week. You seem a bit tired back there." And in a moment that seems very much like Storm, she says, "I'm tired of fighting, Scott, but I'll never be tired of lifting up our own. This is rain in the desert. It's life where there was none." And it's a really beautiful statement. And Cyclops immediately backs off, says, "Fair enough, but I'll check in later just in case." And then in that moment, suddenly all the crowd around starts screaming, "Magneto's back! Magneto's back!" And he steps through the portal and takes off his helmet, and all these people are cheering for him. And one of the children says, "Will you take me with you to fight next time?" And Magneto kneels down to him, looks him right in the eye, and tells him, "I've spent my life fighting so you would never have to, my child. I've wasted too much of my life at war with the humans. But it was worth it because now you have Krakoa, and Krakoa is all you will ever need." But you can tell, like, the hurt in his eye. The artist nailed it here. This kid looks at him with that hurt in his eyes and that fear and says, "But what if the humans try to take it from us like they always do? I'm not afraid. I won't run." And Magneto stands up and looks down on him and says, "You won't have to, for I am Magneto. Let man run from me." And everybody just erupts into cheers, and Cyclops is looking on, and Polaris just says to him, "It's like he's a young man again." And Cyclops, looking on, says, "He's waited a long time for this. We all have." And then as Polaris and Cyclops leave, they have a really interesting conversation. And Cyclops is doing most of the talking about remembering the day that his son was born and the sheer terror of it. Not the idea of being a father. You look forward your whole life to that. But he talks about the kind of world that he worried about, the world that he brought his innocent child into, and the horrors that his boy would have to endure simply because he was his son, that he was like Cyclops. And he goes into it. He explains that the worst part of it was he was right. He did have to suffer. He did. And there was nothing that he could do to stop it. All he could do was endure it. And there were times where he almost gave up, but he endured. He held on. And he states, "And look, I have you and your father and my family, my boy, and we are home. Because I believed in the thing, and now it's real." And she stops and says, "Scott, do you believe that? Do you really believe that?" And he looks back at her and says, "Every single word of it." From there, we jump to the Orcas Forge, where you have a fleet surrounding the forge itself and a debriefing going on of the incidents that happened revolving around the mutant attack. And here you're introduced to the director of ORCIS, and he's overseeing basically the fallout, the burial, the results of the attack from the X-Men when they attacked and destroyed the Mother Mold. Similar to Burial at Sea, they're actually taking the coffins of those that were killed, and they'll take them and they'll jettison them out into the sun as their final burial place. In this conversation between Karina and this director, you get several points laid out for you. First of all, it was his idea. He designed this based off Stark Richards' technology and models. He's the one that took and modified the Trask Sentinels for space use. And you also find out Dr. Gregor, who was leading this assignment prior, that they believe that she's been compromised basically due to her overwhelming sense or overwhelming desire for revenge on the mutants. But it's ultimately this director who assumes responsibility for the failure of the Mother Mold. From there we go to the summer house where Corsair is actually visiting, and he's sitting out basically talking to his son, and they have a beautiful view for the summer house. Cyclops actually says that, hey, the pods, the Krakoan flower portals can take us anywhere, and I wanted a room with a view, so why not? And most of what happens on the Summers house is just good, just people hanging out, just people sitting there having a conversation. There's a pretty funny little bit between Vulcan and Wolverine regarding them out grilling steaks. There's young Cable and Raza are having a conversation about trading weapons, and it's a little bit out of character, it seemed, that Cable has to yell, "Mom, can I trade weapons with Raza?" Seemed extremely weird to me, but what do I know? One interesting point that does happen is that the Summers boys gift old Pops a Krakoan flower that he can plant on the Starjammer ship, so that they're basically a step away at any time. They can at any point step through and be there, you know, and that's pretty cool. One of the things that everybody's talking about in this, from this comic book already online, is that the connection of some of the rooms, room 10, 11, and 12. Number 10 is Wolverine, number 11 is Scott Summers, number 12 is Jean Grey. The reason that this stands out is the fact that it's the only set of rooms that have interconnecting doors. Now, everybody's immediately going to go someplace with that in their mind, but I think this has something to do with something much more sinister. This was mentioned in the Sinister hot takes or whatever from earlier, and I highly suspect this is going to come into a what is the price of Utopia, that Professor X through Krakoa or something is messing with everybody's head and basically creating a fake Utopia where, you know, people's minds are being manipulated in order to make them happy. But anyways, wrapping up the storyline, Corsair comes down to talk to Scott while Scott's in the kitchen doing the dishes, and basically it's a really touching conversation between a son and a father, where the father's worried about him. He's like, "Look, I'm worried about you and your brother." But Scott has a great line here in reply, and he says, "Here's the thing I figured out, Dad. There's no end to the number of things on Earth or hell out there in the universe that want to kill us. They never stop coming. They never will. We're all the same that way. So sure, I'm a fighter. I'll never stop fighting for what I believe in. But I also live here, surrounded by people I love. So I'm done focusing on the things that want me dead. I'm choosing to spend my days focused on the things that make me want to live, okay?" And Corsair just puts his arm around him and says, "Okay, you're a good boy." And it's a really touching moment for the two. The book ends with a pretty big reveal, and it's back on the Orcas Forge. And we're with Dr. McGregor, and the director has come down to speak to her and tell her, "Look, you should have been at your husband's funeral." And she says there wasn't even enough of him left to bury. And the director here basically tells her, "Look, it's okay to have anger and want revenge, but don't lose focus on what we're trying to do here." And then he also points out kind of his human mechanical robotic hybrid thing he has going on. He's talking about how he lost his sight, how he was born without it, but through technology he can see in infrared, ultraviolet, and 100 other ways beyond that. And there's not much that slips by him. But as they discuss her husband further, they talk about how great of a military mind he was, how great of a man he was, and how big of a loss it was for an organization. And then Dr. McGregor stops and says, "Would you like to know a secret, Director?" Director replies, "What's that?" She holds up what looks like a Nimrod crystal and says, "I know how to bring him back." So the coded cipher was Arayo, Arayo, like ARAYYO. I have no clue what that means. But there's also like the way we have these next issues coming out. Check this out, guys. So for the next 2 weeks, we have 1 issue a week coming out, starting with Marauders and Excalibur, and then it goes to 2 issues a week. So I do plan on doing them all on the channel, at least starting out, seeing which series I like and which I don't, and go from there. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit that subscribe button and the bell for notifications so that as I put them up, you don't miss out on them. And, of course, leave your comments down below. What do you guys think about this series? Something tells me we are building up, like it's been mentioned, the price of Utopia. What does that mean? Not everybody can get everything they want, but seeing Magneto and seeing how the crowds loved him and how they see him as this messiah, seeing the connecting room thing, the weird thing with Polaris, everything that's going on. Not everybody can be happy. Not everything, you can't always get what you want. And something tells me somebody is manipulating these people, or these mutants, to believe that they are truly in this utopia, and there's something behind it. Something is just not right. I did love the moment with Magneto bending down and talking to that little boy, though, because, you know, I'm a veteran, and my son, because he knows I was in the army, he thinks that that's going to be cool when he's older. And Half Stacks he's 2nd grade now. So when he says stuff like that, it's kind of that very similar moment. It's like, son, I fought because I hope to do so that you wouldn't have to. And then granted, I know there's going to have to be somebody at the gate to defend the country. Don't get me not going on that. But it's kind of one of those moments. It's just that conversation. It got to me a little bit. I mean, I really enjoyed it. Now, to be clear, I don't think the art was bad in this, but I do think it was a step back from what we received in House of X and Powers of X. That's just my opinion on it. Y'all can tell me your thoughts down below. And also, who are the Children of the Vault? I've looked it up. I know a little bit about it, but y'all tell me, who do you think that character was? Anyways, if you haven't, guys, hit that subscribe button. Help me continue to grow this channel. I appreciate all the new subscribers, guys. You guys are absolutely amazing. I can't believe how fast this channel is growing, and it's all because of your support, your comments, your likes. Everything you do just continues to help this channel grow, and I sincerely appreciate all the shares on social media that I've gotten. It really means a lot, and sincerely thank you for that. But that's all I got, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video as much as I enjoyed making it. That's all I got. Real Comic Stacks out.